So I've just seen a interview on Boxing Scene where Errol Spence Jr. has been discussing the idea of moving up to 154 in even further depth than he has before. So essentially he's got two choices. So he's obviously got the Manny Pacquiao fight penciled on the 21st of August. If he comes through that, he can do one of two things. He can go over the top rank and see if he can finally get that Crawford fight over the line, or he can vacate his belt and move straight up to 154. I suspect the latter will probably happen. Obviously, I really want the Crawford unification, but I think that fight should have happened a few years back, personally, before he had that horrific car crash. If we'd have got that sort of back in 2018, early 2019, that would have been the ideal time to do it. I'd still rather have it than never have it. I just think the time may have gone now. So obviously, if he does vacate both his IBF and WBC titles, straight up to 154, can start knocking on the door to the current unified champ up there, Jamel Charlo. And I think that's a fantastic fight as well. So there's a lot of things to achieve. Obviously, look, he's already unified champion. Becoming a two-weight world champion is obviously next on his hit list. So can't say fairer than that. And look, it's no news that Errol Spence Jr. has always found it hard to maintain and be disciplined regarding his weight between fights. Obviously, like I said, the car crash that he had at the back end of 2019 didn't help things. But even before the Danny Garcia fight, which was December last year, Spence Jr. weighed as much as 185 pounds, which is unbelievable. But I'll give him a bit of a free pass in the sense of obviously what happened. But yeah, it's very similar to obviously Kell Brook, who was another top welterweight back in his day that just didn't live the life of a boxer outside of the ring. And, loved to party, loved to get on the beers and just balloon massively between weights. So I think him going up to 154 is only natural. He's obviously getting a bit older now as well. Certainly not past his best by any means, but it's only natural for a lot of these guys to go up the weight divisions as they get slightly older. So, yeah, very interesting to see how this plays out. And look, if he does vacate, obviously, his IBF and WBC titles, then obviously we've got a couple of vacant belts on the line. And would it be too much to say that even someone like a Conor Benn could come in at the back end of 2022 and pick one of those up? Now, the only reason I say that is because only recently Eddie Hearn said that they'd laid out a roadmap for Conor Benn to be fighting for a world title within his next 5 fights. And we know that he's fighting in fight camp at the end of July. He'll probably have another fight at the end of 2021. So essentially, he'll have 3 fights in 2022, with his third fight being for a world title. Now, I still think they probably will push him down the WBA route, as he has one of those continental titles at the moment. But look, did Team Ben or Eddie Hearn know something that we didn't? In the fact that one of these top guys is going to say, right, enough's enough. I've achieved everything I want to achieve at welter. It's time for me to move on. Now, I don't think there's any risk of Terence Crawford doing the same. Whether the fight with Spence Jr. happens or not, I don't think Crawford's going anywhere, personally. I think he'll probably keep his cards very close to his chest because he knows it's only a matter of time before Josh Taylor, who's currently obviously the undisputed super lightweight champion, will have to move up because he won't be able to defend all of his mandatories in the time that the governing bodies want him to. Now, he will have to take care of business, at least with the WBO, as far as the Jack Catterall fight's concerned. Jack Catterall obviously moved aside so the Taylor-Ramirez unification could happen. So I believe Taylor will at least, minimum, have at least one more fight at super light, defend those belts. And I think, personally, he'll go straight back up to welterweight. And like I said, there's potential for that mega fight between Crawford and Taylor to happen, which I think is great. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts here. Let's say Spence Jr. vacates, he goes up. Could someone like a Conor Benn in a year's time step in and fight for one of those titles if they've not been claimed already? Could he fight the current champion of either of those titles? And like I said, Taylor jumps in, potentially fights Terence Crawford. Or could Josh Taylor even come in and fight someone for the IBF or WBC. Guys, it's absolutely crazy. There's so many things that could happen here or that couldn't happen here. So let me know, obviously, do you think, obviously, firstly, Spence Jr. beats Pacquiao? If he does the Crawford fight happen? And if the Crawford fight doesn't happen, how soon does he go up to 154 and ditch his belts? Let me know in the comments, guys. Cheers.